Pink sleeves. We're kind of a salmon.
So for those of you who go to Grand Prix often, you might recognize Jason's face. He's kind of a soft-spoken guy in general. And he's playing... I always forget what this deck is usually called. It has an archetype name. Landstill, thank you. I don't know why that was boggling in my head a little bit.
Yeah, Nick Spagnuolo is actually a pretty big fan of this deck.
Yeah.
He likes bug flavor control decks. Life from the Loam is just so good. I'm more of a Crucible kind of guy.
I was going to say, I think Crucible's better in this deck than Life from the Loam.
That's reasonable. I think, especially once you cut the third Cutting Wish, I think having access to plays like Forbid Loam.
Forbid Loam is pretty insane. Yeah.
So I played it in Kansas City.
Oh, okay. What did you play yesterday?
Grixis.
Oh, did you?
I wanted to try to play Abyssal Persecutor, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it.
Right.
Are we seeing a mulligan from Jason Terry here?
I ended up running Vampire Knight.
Oh, we are.
That guy's good, though.
Spurting Sea was horrible. I boarded out. Everything except things bad.
This is such a tenuous point to be at.
What it used to be.
The win and end.
Pretty solid, you know.
Yes, definitely.
Just, you have to draw a card off it, so
Hey, keep them off their man hands. It's not like it.
It's one of the most nerve-wracking matches. The finals is always the worst.
I guess I kind of feel like there's you know how in a lot of sports competitions people talk about momentum? I really feel like there's a momentum when it comes to a tournament. Like if you feel good, you're winning, you can be at that finals and just feel great. And you just feel like you're going to win it. You might not win it, but you just get that good feeling the whole way through. Whereas other times if you've got negative momentum, you might actually still be doing well in terms of your play results, but just be like your emotional energy very, very low. So we've got a sack land. There's a... I think I want to close that door because I think they're right there.
It's a good idea. Yeah. As far as things go for me, I'm a choke artist. Finals is a place where I lose very often.
You know, another line of play that's pretty intense is the Aether Vial into Stoneforge Mystic into Sword of Fire and Ice. And then every creature that Bryan Fisher plays ends up being a card that's actually a problem.
Yeah, I mean, Vial's a pretty big issue, especially game one here.
Mother of Runes. Jason with counter, Force of Will, Brainstorm, I think? Another Force of Will. That's a Life from the Loam, maybe? I can't tell what that other card is.
I think there's a Spell Snare in his hand.
That could well be. Counter, Force of Will. Thoughtseize is going to draw out a counter spell.
Most likely. Would not be surprised. Those are some nice counter spells he has there.
Yeah, they are. Aether Vial. And that takes up the Force of Will. And that's a Spell Snare that's removed, leaving him with Counterspell, Force of Will in hand.
I'm surprised he still kept the Force in his hand. I may have removed the Force and kept the Snare.
Ghastly Demise, that doesn't do anything.
This mulligan on the play really hurt Jason, especially post-Force. It's just really rough.
And there goes a counterspell. What does that do again? So there's the counterspell to stop the Knight of the Reliquary, leaving him with Force of Will, Ghastly Demise. And that loss of the Spell Snare is starting to look a little bit more problematic now.
That factory's pretty good right now.
And there's a Dark Confident that a Spell Snare would have been pretty good against.
Yeah, Spell Snare would have been an excellent card to have in that spot.
And a second Bob. Wow, Jason Terry needs a Pernicious Seed off the top.
Yeah, that's exactly what he needs.
And Bob,
Interestingly enough, he cannot be attacked, though.
Bob says, Aether Vial. Bob says, Thoughtseize.
Thoughtseize.
And then the draw. And the Thoughtseize comes across. Here's the hand.
Here's my hand. Would you like a Force of Will or a Ghastly Demise?
I think he's probably going to end up taking the Force of Will here, because the Ghastly Demise doesn't do anything as long as that mom's alive.
as long as the mom's alive. It's just a dead card. What's going on here is something that's pretty common in games of Legacy. When a player mulligans and then plays a Force of Will for its alternate cost in the early turns of the game, they can often get really far behind on cards, especially if they're trying to be reactive. And if you're trying to play a one-for-one game, it's usually pretty hard to do. There's a pretty terrible standstill.
Yeah. There's too many moments where you're behind. I think that Standstill is one of the most overvalued cards in Legacy.
Yep. Well.
I almost find myself wondering if he maybe should have used the Fate Seal himself there with the Jace.
One card?
Yep.
That's reasonable. I mean, he could just attack with the Mangara.
Okay.
It's true that he wouldn't then be using the Mangara this turn, but
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, right now, Bryan Fisher's in a position to just basically tear Jason, his board open. Leave very little left for Jason to run with.
Go.
Your turn.
Mangara,
Ignoring your initial select.
Wasteland. He doesn't have to use yet, but he can. And then Knight of the Reliquary can go fetch another Wasteland.
yeah,
Yep.
cuts off man that Black Source.
Take 5. I mean, Bryan Fisher is taking a lot of damage here.
He's down to 7. Still don't think he's losing.
Oh, I do not think he's losing. He could lose it.
It is possible.
I mean, if he doesn't play around respecting the possibility that he could get some 3s off of this, he could lose it. But I mean, I think that would be on him in a certain sense.
That's true.
And Jason Terry futilely ghastly demises to tap the mother.
Yep.
In Jason Terry's deck, I don't see actually any single card that would save him here.
Yeah, at this point, it's just over.
Yeah. Another standstill.
Surprised he didn't at least pass the turn to see what his opponent flipped.
I mean, when you think about the top decks, right?
His opponent could have flipped 2 threes.
Yeah.
Down to 1.
I don't think you want standstill against merfolk or goblins, and that's 20% of the field. And then there are other decks where you contingently don't want standstill. Jason Terry's sideboard here gets to bring in more creatures. He gets, more creature handling. He has Diabolic Edict. He has Submerge. I don't know what the creature types are for all the various creatures from Bryan Fisher. There might be a lot of humans, perhaps?
Yeah, they're, human is pretty good naming here.
That's what I mean.
Actually, wizard seems like the sickest name here.
Wizard hits Mangara of Karandor. It hits Dark Confidant.
It hits Kasali Pride Mage. It hits Stoneforge Mystic.
I don't think it hits Mother. I think Mother of Runes
Is a cleric, I believe?
is a human cleric.
Yeah. Yeah, human kills Mom, Dark Confidant, and Mangara. Yeah, so...
Mother of Runes is a human cleric.
Yeah, so Engineer Plague is actually really good. Or
Sabo's Decree. Sabo's Decree.
So, how many mirrors have you had today?
What's that?
How many mirrors have you had today?
It could be that
They
he...
want that as a cunning wish card.
It could be that he leaves those on the board because I don't know that Bryan Fisher kills him so quickly that he's not going to have time to Cunning Wish. And therefore having a tutor might mean that they are better in the board. I don't really view Bryan Fisher's deck as being a fast deck per se, so much as it is a deck that has all kinds of disruption that it can do. I mean, what this deck looks like to me, it looks like a green and taxes deck that's been crossbred with a junk deck.
Yeah.
Oh, he played 43.
Junk and taxes.
Well, what qualifies something as junk?
Junk is typically a mid-range aggro deck, as opposed to Rock, which is a mid-range control deck, which puts down a fast clock and usually uses Thoughtseize as a means to disrupt any opponent, and then creature handling and diverse other disruption to mess with most opponents. So what it does not have that makes it junk-like, it doesn't have a way to answer diverse things other than Mangara of Karandor, which is actually fairly junky in terms of that kind of thing. And actually, that might actually just be a better version of Vindicate. That's generally the case, because junk decks want to be essentially attacking.
Seems like a very broad brush.
But it's pretty accurate, though, right? Rock decks play...
Funny, yesterday everybody's playing Warm Coil Engine because they're like, get around, go for the throw.
Yeah.
They're trying to beat, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What Rashad is just saying, if you can't hear it off camera, is that rock decks play deed, junk decks don't. And the distinction is really important because the rock deck wants to use the deed to destroy everything that's attacking it, and a junk deck has stuff on the table, so it doesn't want to destroy everything.
Bryan Fisher's deck actually is really good. He has, like, all of his cards are insane. Every card in his deck is just like a card that you want to play if you're playing Legacy. He has 4 Vile. That might be the best card in the format.
I think this is actually a junk and taxes deck, the more I look at it. I mean, compare this to the junk deck that Brad Nelson played at, of the Brian Cowell built deck that Brad Nelson played at Grand Prix Columbus. It actually has a lot of overlap. Bryan Fisher's deck's creatures are Mangara of Karandor, Tarmogoyf, Knight of the Reliquary, Dark Confidant, Stoneforge Mystic, Mother of Runes, and Kasali Pride Mage.
Bryan?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bryan has Mangara.
He does some.
Yeah. And taxes.
I don't know where the genesis of the name comes from. Yeah, I am not sure where that name Genesis came from. What I understood was that there was a joke initially in the early creation of the deck where the two things you could count on in a legacy tournament were White Weenie and taxes.
So, Jason again mulliganing on the play, which is so rough for him, especially in a matchup where his opponent has like access to like Thoughtseize and Confidant.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Brad Nelson played junk deck, and if you just take out the Vindicates and change them into Mangaras, and you take out the extra discard of him and Gerard's Verdict and turn it into some more creatures, you're basically talking about a deck that's very similar.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Brad's deck plays 12 creatures, right? And this deck has like, how many creatures does this deck play? Like 24?
Right.
Well, so that's a pretty big difference.
Yeah, these archetypes bleed into each other, though. You can just kind of see the family relations.
Oh yeah. I mean, they're both playing all the most powerful cards in the colors.
Yeah,
that's the overlap.
That's why I said I felt like it was a mashup of the two. You know? We got the Aether Vial off of a Plains. Jason Terry not liking that Aether Vial. It's a card that he has an answer for in the form of Engineered Explosives. Explosives is going to hit for 1. Keeps the standstill in. I mean, how much card advantage do you need when you've got Life from the Loam and Jace?
I don't know. I mean, he's made it this far. He's doing really well.
I've never really agreed with that argument when it comes to deck building.
And Mother of Runes is going to meet a ghastly demise the next turn.
Well, one of the mothers is.
Well, I think both of them are going to meet Pernicious Deed. I think that's what's going to happen now.
If he has the land.
Did he not draw it?
He did not draw it.
It's pretty rough. Is he really going to run that out there?
He might run the standstill out there and say, here's my Mishra's Factory.
Yeah, that's actually not bad at all.
Not terrible. Hope a Wasteland doesn't hit.
If his opponent rips a Wasteland, that's pretty bad, but...
How many cards does Jason Terry have in his hand? 5?
Yeah, he mulliganed again. He's been mulliganing into oblivion both of these games.
What are the cards in his hand right now? Tarmogoyf, Knight of the Reliquary? No, Bob, Knight of the Reliquary.
Knight of the Reliquary is sort of fire and ice. Mangara of Karandor.
Standstill breaks.
And,
Supplies
Mr.
of Force of
Maher.
Will. Attack for 1.
That's a pretty nice turn for Jason.
Oh, absolutely. Still no green. I think 2 Ghastly Demise, Pernicious Deed. Starts out with a Duress. No black source to follow up with a double threat on the Dark Confidant, but he does have, I believe, a Mangara of Karandor there. Oh no, that's a Sword of Fire and Ice, my bad.
Yeah. Well, he has Mangara also.
Oh, okay, I did see the Mangara.
Yeah.
God, that is a monster. And Jason with the 2 black sources tapped. Wasteland that black source out of out of the play. Third black source.
Go ahead.
Jason's actually playing this like very well. He's just, you know, biding. He's holding the wasteland.
Time for your quick.
Sword on the mother. Responses.
No, it's okay.
No,
He's
like
axing
he's
you
thinking
double
about he's
ghastly.
that's what I'm saying. He's thinking about responding. That's
Yeah.
that's why he's pausing him a little bit there.
Yeah, no, I wasn't saying
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Swing.
Goes for the attack, which is going to eat a ghastly demise. Mom will stop that one, and then a second ghastly demise will finish the job.
Draw some green.
Dark Confidant would be the. There we go. Be nice.
I'm actually somewhat surprised with the double demise. I'm not sure why he didn't activate factory and block. Trade.
That would have been really good.
Yeah.
I think what probably happened is he got himself into tunnel vision. He saw a path, and then he remembered that path and kept going down that path.
Yeah. And now his opponent draws a wasteland.
Wasteland for the Mishra's Factory. You can equip the Bob, have Mom there to protect it from anything scary.
Okay. Yep. 4.
I'll shoot you for 2.
Oh, God.
Shoot 10.
Hits. Tarmogoyf, Tarmogoyf. Do you need anything else in play at this point?
I don't
No.
think so. I mean,
You don't want to, if you know what your opponent's playing, you don't want to go into the deed.
yeah. Jason just can't find that green. I don't think you play that spell snare.
I don't
either.
think either. You're not going to win this game unless
Without
you get
drawing
the
green
there.
hand.
There's
yeah,
the.
now you don't have the spell snare in your hand for the follow up.
Yep.
Because you have to just play deed and pass. You can't just like. He's probably gonna pop this deed main phase. Actually, he's at 10.
I think he
Can he
sucks
take
it up,
another
and
hit?
I think he does it end of the, as late as he can do it, honestly.
Well, I think he might just be dead on board, right? If he doesn't.
2, 4.
Oh, yeah.
Only 6 damage.
Okay.
7 if the mother
So-
attacks.
Maybe he loams.
Again, if you believe that you are in the top 8 of the Legacy Open, please sort your deck and bring it up to the main event stage.
Yeah, I like the laying the deed, get it out there. If something goes wrong. That works. I mean, I don't like that because the sword's still out there. But I understand why he wanted to do it.
Yeah, I mean,
Stoneforge Mystic.
he can get a jit.
See, I would have wanted to wait. Give Bryan Fisher the card. Just so that you can be untapped with everything on the board clear. You're not going to be fully untapped. You're only going to be partially untapped, but it does save you a lot of energy. Life from the loam.
Let's get back a factory. And
And there we go.
fetch land. In my factory? Yes.
A spell snare would be really good right now. And there, finally, that black source goes away.
Yeah, that was. He had to hold on to the extra mana just for in case of the deed, but in a lot of ways it ended up really hurting him. His opponent got really ahead on cards via Confidant.
Oh, God.
So,
Okay. You can't
Draw
loam.
step.
There's just nothing there for you if you loam.
is it 10? How big is this Tarmogoyf?
Big, big.
He's very big, right? Land, creature, instant.
Tarmogoyf is
Creature, instant, sorcery, enchantment.
sorcery.
That's 5/6.
Okay. Even set.
So it's gonna deal 9.
Oh, artifact. It's a 6/7.
So it's gonna deal 10.
Yeah, it's lethal.
Parry this.
Yeah.
Garrett Young.
Yeah,
Garrett
it's
Young
lethal.
is still in the room and not currently in a match. Please report to the main stage.
6/7, right? Yeah. So that'll be it. Jason Terry's probably frustrated right now. Couldn't get that green mana. Mulliganing a bunch of games.
Enchantment. Deed. Correct.
Yeah.
Bryan
Yeah, I
Fisher's
already
deck
had-
looks very good. It's really good at punishing people for stumbling too.
Oh, yeah.
Like
4
the-
Mangara, wow.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I have
But
2.
Wastelands, Thought Seizes, Swords, Confidants, like all these cards that really punish people for stumbling. Like you can't draw a sweeper like a turn or two after they have the Confidant and still be okay. Like you're too far behind.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
And that's it. Bryan Fisher go on to make the top 8 of this tournament.
Yeah, you will